All right, guys. This is me again, Per Ferdinandsen, and I will talk to you a little bit about, for the coming 20 minutes, about learning strategies for distributed asynchronous learning. I'll give you some practical solutions also that you can go back to your organizations and apply. First, let's just repeat some practical stuff. Please fire away all the questions that you have during the session. There's a questions and a chat option in the GoToWebinar client, so feel free to go in there and tap any questions that you have. We will, of course, record this session as well and share it on the community after the conference. If any other questions related to the session comes up later, you can always ask back on the hub page where we also have a chat function. And if you have any technical assistance that you need us to help you with in regards to the conference tech, getting in and out of meeting rooms and so on, go to the hub page and ask in the chat. And we have, we have a team member standing by to help you. Okay, but let's get started. So this session is about learning strategies for distributed asynchronous learning. Obviously, without spending too much time on the current situation of almost anywhere in the world, the world is a different place than it was for all of us just a couple of months ago, or compared to a couple of months ago. This of course makes this session's topic maybe more relevant than ever, because a lot of the typical places where learning would take place. We've been talking in the learning industry for many years about the pending death of ILT, instructor-led training, classroom training. And still we've seen that not entirely die away, but maybe this is the pivotal event that will finally make that happen. Because conferences is impossible right now. Meeting in big groups, of course, also in the classroom or even in a big meeting room is also a no-go for many companies and organizations right now around the world. It seems that today's topic here is really relevant to look into. If we just start by looking at the two, we can just have a look at what's going on specifically for us, of course, in ClickLearn. If we look at our little company, everyone is working from home. All 3 offices in the US, India, and here in Copenhagen, Denmark, where I'm located, have been shut down, and everybody is more or less working from home every day. And it's of course the same probably for most of you who are listening in and attending our conference today. Many of you are, I'm sure, are doing it also from the comfort of your own home. So we are in that sense working distributed already. But let's look at those two terms first before we dive in. So asynchronous learning means, of course, learning that doesn't occur in the same place or takes place at the same time. So it could be a learning activity that could involve multiple people, just not at the same time. Distributed learning is a method on activity that allows an instructor or students and content to be located in a non-centralized location, so that learning can occur completely independent of time and place. So again, like the previous concept here, 2 concepts or 2 types of learning that are atypical compared to our classical ILT learning setup, which we are completely unable to perform. And of course, it's quite clear that one statement or one question could pop up in your mind already. I mean, ClickLearn is, of course, also a user adoption and e-learning company and tool. So is more e-learning simply the answer for this situation? And is that really what we should do to accommodate? And of course, depending on the perspective that you use when you answer this question, it can be both a yes and a no. So maybe we should first start by looking at a specific perspective that we could use when we answer this question. And for this particular session, I have chosen to use the perspective of a theory around different learning styles. Some of you have maybe already heard of this type of theory where you can identify a number of different learning styles. And I think part of it is also to say that some people have preference over one more than the others. I'm not going to go too much into that aspect of the theory, but at least just let's have a look and a little talk about the 7 different learning styles, because it's going to be quite interesting when we look at e-learning with that perspective. So the 7 learning styles are, number 1 here, visual. So anything that you can see, pictures, images, spatial understanding. The oral learning style is, of course, about sound and music, things you can hear. The verbal and the linguistic learning style is about words. So it can be words that you can say or write when you learn. The physical or kinesthetic learning style is about using your body, your hands, and touching objects while learning. And we also have the logical or mathematical learning style, which is about finding logic, reasoning, and seeing things in systems while you're learning. And then the last 2, which could maybe be a little bit in opposition to each other, you could say the social learning style, where you learn in groups, so learning together with other people, and the solitary learning style, where you work alone, use self-study. And it's of course fairly clear here that some of these learning styles we can activate on e-learning. So if we take them from the bottom, solitary, certainly a lot of us are probably working alone as a self-study method when we are consuming e-learning. We can probably also agree that if you're viewing a video, the 2 top ones, visual and oral, are in play. But the next 4, the verbal, where we are formulating words in speech and writing, is maybe not activated at all, certainly not the physical one. And maybe we can discuss the logical one, but the social learning style, where we are learning together with other people, we can probably also agree we hardly are activating. And so maybe it would be interesting when we are talking about asynchronous distributed learning to see if there are some of these learning styles that we could maybe activate as well. Specifically for this session, I've chosen to look on these 2, the verbal and the social learning styles, and see if there's ways to introduce some methods or some assignments into to your already existing programs, where you can have your learners activated to write words, to work together in groups. So let's look at a couple of solutions for this. The first one, we can just call it open-ended questions. It seems extremely simple, but it's actually both very useful and very effective, and fairly simple to implement also. Obviously, open-ended questions, or let's say, closed questions is questions that you can answer with yes or no, where open-ended questions, you have to elaborate more. Typically a question where you ask, question that you ask with the word what, for example, where you have to define something. So it could be quite effective if you use open-ended questions to engage your students or learners to reflect on and apply the knowledge that they have just acquired in the e-learning that they've consumed. You can then channel these assignments or the answers that they apply into your already existing collaboration platform. So if you have Microsoft Teams, that could be used. If you have another one, I'm sure you could use that one as well. But for this purpose, we'll have a look at an example using Microsoft Teams. So in this example, you're seeing an excerpt of a classical click-learn recording of a specific process. The process retire item. I'm at the end of the HTML page, but it could also be viewed in the video, of course. And here it states in text, to complete this course, please reflect on the process you have learned and answer the following questions. And then there are two open-ended questions. What risks do you see are present for operators when performing this process, and how can those risks be mitigated? And then a simple link to a channel on Teams dedicated to this assignment, or to this particular area of assignments. Clicking on the link will then take the learner to the specific channel on Teams. And the learner will then answer the questions in here in their own words. So we are now activating the verbal learning style. And of course, if we can encourage feedback, because we have an option, anyone in the team can of course use the reply option here to provide feedback. Then if that culture exists, it's going to create some feedback for the learner here, maybe some communication that others can also learn from. And there we have the social learning element activated. We have another example, another practical example that you can also go back and work with, online tutoring, where you basically facilitate study groups and assign some predefined tutors. Again, I would suggest using your already existing collaboration platform like Microsoft Teams or similar type platform. Set up a team and some specific channels for maybe specific topics where you channel your learners in. And a tutor in this case would mean someone who has been elevated to the highly respected role of being a tutor within this topic, and who can provide some feedback and guidance to the learners on this topic. Again, you can have some assignments. It could maybe be the tutor's role to provide feedback on the first couple of times that a certain process is actually completed in your dynamic system or ERP system, and once this has been completed, the learner will go in, if it's possible, paste a link in the channel and ask for feedback and ask if this process has been completed correctly. Of course, it's not going to work for every scenario, but it might be quite useful for those scenarios where this could play out. You can of course apply some sort of gamification around the tutoring program. I mean, tutoring in this example does have some familiarities with the super user concept, and super users, sometimes may not always like to be overwhelmed with questions. So it could maybe be something where you say, yeah, you are only tutor for a certain amount of time and only dedicated for a specific topic. And you could have different levels as well. So you channel them into one channel on Teams, for example, for those who are fairly new, and then you proceed onwards as you get better. So you could probably do some pretty elaborate systems there. Yeah, so just to sum up the key takeaways from this, there's no need to kind of rework everything that you have. Your e-learning is still valuable, but you might have some opportunity to extend your existing learning programs. My suggestion is that you think strongly about how you can utilize your collaboration platforms. So if you're using Teams, that's one option. If you're using a different platform, I'm fairly confident that you have some options there as well to do some of what we are suggesting here. And then think about ways of incorporating social learning. I mean, it doesn't have to be super difficult to actually do. You can do it with some fairly simple tricks as the ones that we've shown here. Yeah, so that concludes my presentation on learning strategies for distributed asynchronous learning. So if you have any questions for me on this topic, I am very happy to answer them. You can go into the questions pane in your GoToWebinar client and fire away. And then my friendly moderator will be sure to grab any that come in.
No questions have come in yet. Please put in your questions into the questions pane if you have any.
While you guys are pondering your questions and typing in frantically before the next session, I can just make a quick remark here before we finish that we actually are quite a team of trained and educated, what is the right word, teachers and trainers in ClickLearn. We have a really strong interest in this topic, and we are actually going to provide a lot of content on this topic, both specifically learning strategies, but also other things around learning, but not maybe specifically ClickLearn related, on the community in the months coming. Yeah. It looks like there are no questions so far. We still have a couple of minutes, so if anyone wants to jump in and ask a question, there's a final chance to do that. No, it doesn't look like it. All right, well then we have a minute and a half left, so I guess we'll just cut it here, and I just want to say thank you for coming in here and watching this session. Thanks a lot, guys, and yeah, we will be seeing you around in one of the other sessions shortly. So 5 minutes break until the next one. See you later. Bye for now.